One more question then. I met deaf people here in Japan, and they said that they went to a regular school.
Right.
Right? And I thought that their speaking skills were exceptional. It was not perfect. You could tell that they're deaf, but it was great. I was really amazed. Do their parents want them to go to a regular school, or do they force their kids to go to a regular school? If yes, why? If no, why? Like, who chooses which school the kid is going to go?
Yeah, I think it's just like in America. There's a huge lack of information. So when their parents find out their kids are deaf, they may go back to the doctors and say like, or the doctors usually are the ones who find out, right? Oh, your kid has some sort of hearing loss, and then they would say, oh, we recommend a cochlear ear implant, right? Or hearing aids back then, right? And they wouldn't really talk. It depends on how much the doctor knows. If the doctor knew about sign language, if they knew about deaf schools, then that would help. They could recommend, but it's up to the doctor, right? And so...
what do you think? Which school should they go? Is it good for them to be at the deaf school, or is it better for them to be at the regular school and just learn with other kids?
I think...
Because at the regular school, nobody's going to do the speech therapy and waste all those hours on...
But they still are like left behind because they can't understand what the teacher's saying. Especially if the teacher's talking like this and then turns around and starts talking like that. Like, yeah, you have no idea what they're saying, right? So I still think that, in my opinion, most deaf kids should go to a deaf school. Actually, my opinion is like, I think everybody should learn sign language. That's number one. Everyone should just learn sign language.
I agree.
Right? It'd be easier to communicate with everybody. We have hands,
yes.
And just like, why not?
I agree.
It's not difficult,
yeah.
right? So number one.
Everybody should go.
Everyone should learn sign language, right? They don't have to go to deaf school because
right.
the deaf school is a little bit more special,
right.
And they focus on more specific classes for deafness.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna waste time on like band class.
Right.
They may have, which is not bad or terrible. I just think that they can use better resources. So now the problem is that a lot of deaf schools are closing because there aren't enough students. Many kids are being sent to mainstream schools. Their parents think that the devices and the cochlear ear implants will make their kids 100% hearing, when in reality,
wow.
it varies so much. They do feel isolated, so they don't have a community. And then they don't have sign language, so they cannot communicate with other deaf people.
That's my question. Why would you rob people of their native language? Because that's what it is. It's their native language. You
Unfortunately, yeah, parents are very dumb. I would say it's exceptional for parents to actually go out and find what's good for the kids. It's exceptional. So parents who do that, they're wonderful. But I would say more than half of parents, like I was just listening to another podcast. They should really make. You have to have a driver's license to drive, right? You actually have like a parenting license to have kids, right? Like,
that's what a lot of people argue about. They're like, you need a license to get a dog.
Yeah, you should get like a license to like have a baby.
I agree.
Like you gotta know some fundamental things.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So they went to regular school, right? That guy was telling me that, I said, was it difficult for you? And he was like, yeah, it's difficult because I can't hear everything that the teacher is saying, but then the teacher requires that I answer the question, right? So it is difficult, but at the same time, he probably felt better prepared for this world of hearing people, because that's where he's going to work later, right? He's going to find a job somewhere, probably. He's going to work in the office where 90%, 99% of people are hearing. What do you think? So, is it worth suffering all those years at a regular school, or deaf school is better and probably deaf school plus extra classes?
Yeah, I think he may be exceptional, right? His hearing loss may have not been so severe like my parents, so that he can actually understand, and he can actually use his vocal cords. But there are some people who are completely deaf. They can still speak, but they are still losing a lot of information.
Right.
And as you get older, your hearing is going to go worse. Like, that's just fact. So no matter what, I mean, if we're an open society, right, we should supply citizens with the proper needs, their system needs, right? So even if you're deaf, you still will need an interpreter. So even if you have moderate hearing loss, it would not be bad to have a sign language interpreter. right?
Yes.
So I really believe that kids should go to deaf schools. Deaf kids should go to deaf schools, and if they are advanced, they can go take mainstream classes. And I think it's really depending on how well the kids do. So I can't just make a general statement.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it would be good if they're exposed to sign language.
Right.
That's the general statement. Everyone should be exposed to sign language.
Right. Yes. Some deaf people were asked if they could get their hearing back, would they want it back? And a lot of people said no. Why do you think?
I think for the people who do have deaf culture, would say no, and I think it's because they've lived with it, they grew up with it, they have their community. They're afraid of losing their community if they become hearing. And you do have that. And like, I kind of disagree with that as well. Like, some deaf people, they may be so far to the right that anything associated with hearing is evil, right? And that's kind of unfortunate, like, you know.
That's interesting, because I think one of the reasons why it happens is because us hearing people kind of alienate them.
Yeah, that
right?
happens, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
because we're not really helping them because we have no idea what it is.
Right. But, I mean, they also take it out on interpreters, right? The people who are trying to serve their needs. So, I basically, I just disagree with any conservative people. Like, they're so far right-leaning that they are not open to any negotiation.
Right.
And that happens with the deaf community as well. So, but for those people who are very open to it, like there was a thing on Facebook that someone said that if someone were to be cured or have a cochlear implant, they would not be their friend. Right? So
why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why
like
is that?
that was just
Why
really
is that?
weird. Yeah. So I mean, just that kind of. I guess for me that seems like just hard-headedness.
Yeah.
And it's like just really weird. But yeah, I think a lot of people would be scared of losing their community.
Right. Well, see, I think that also another problem is that us hearing people again, we kind of think that sign language is an extra something that people can use, while in reality it's their native language. It's all they can use, right? So if you take my language, you know, what am I going to have, right? Nothing,
Right.
zero. So I think it's this misconception of what a sign language is.
Right.
People think that you can stop using that and you can do something else. Do what?
Right, like, oh, you just talk, right?
Oh yeah, come on.
Right, exactly. So,
yeah,
they are worried about that. Maybe the other thing is that, you know, they would be worried about like getting bothered by a lot of sounds. So actually, one deaf person said, like, man, I feel sorry for hearing people. They always are bothered by everything. Like. Like, you just like get a plastic bag and they're like, oh my god, the plastic bag is so loud, right? Like, it's just a plastic bag. So.
Another question that I have, I noticed that when you talk with deaf people, right, you use signs and sign and you articulate also. But when we talk, you use gestures, but you don't gesture as much.
Right. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I guess I grew up learning that for spoken language, it's a little bit too distracting to be signing a lot.
Right.
I would just use basic, like, I mean, if you talk to Italians,
yes.
they're always
like
using their hands. They're like, oh, come on. It's like, yeah, it's like, they're doing something. Basically, their language is like using our hands.
Right.
But it's a little bit too distracting.
Right.
I guess like growing up in America, that's the thing, yeah. So,
I was also thinking that I actually met a deaf woman here in our village, and it's a village, you know, like everybody knows everyone. Right. And she was just passing by. I was talking with the other lady and with her dog. Actually, we have a dog, and we were kind of talking about the dog. And then somebody just passes by, and my kid look up, and they say hello, and then she signs something, and I don't speak JSL. So I signed something back, something that I knew in ASL, right? And she was like, oh, okay. So she kind of was, what's going on? And then, so this lady is the lady I was talking with, she's standing there, she's looking at us, and then we start signing, and I don't know what I'm signing. I mean, I'm saying some basics like, hello, how are you? Are you good? And then she keeps, she speaks to me, and I can understand because she articulates, and I speak Japanese.
Right.
So she articulates, and I totally, completely, 100% understand what she's saying. And then this woman is looking at us and like, what's going on? This person is like articulating, you know, kind of articulating too, so she's like, what? And then an interesting thing also that woman, like, we met for the first time. We never met.
Just on the street, right?
Yeah, just.
And she just
like
said hi to you.
And she said hi. I said hi, right? And then when we start talking, like, she gets really close to you, and she starts like, oh, come on, and all that. And I think that it's this openness that this sign language gives you, and also the fact that you mentioned before that you need to actually be involved all the time. You need to look at the person. You need to watch the body and the hands. And we start talking, and it feels like I've known her. Like, she's like my friend,
your good old buddy.
And that lady who was there with her dog, she was shocked. I think she was looking at us and like, what is going on here?
Very typical Japanese reaction. Like,
yeah, she just froze, and we kept talking, and she was like, oh, okay. And that lady said, oh, I'll see you later, and bye-bye. And she was so kind of happy and expressive. That lady probably thought that we were like cuckoo.
Yeah, especially in Japan, if you don't really just say hi to people you don't know. Maybe in Osaka it's fine.
I do though. I do, and everybody says hi back because they think I'm a crazy
foreigner. Being a foreigner in Japan does like give you an excuse to be a little crazy.
But my point is that it feels, and I also talk with other deaf people, it feels that they're much warmer, just the personality. Do you think it's the sign language affecting that, or it's what is it?
I definitely think it's the sign language. Yeah. Definitely, because I've met people who are hard of hearing or deaf who don't know sign language, and they're just like hearing people, in the sense that like it's just very like no expression, very blank, very like keep your space.
Right. Do you think okay? So have you ever met a deaf kind of like blank reserved person who is like
who didn't know sign language or who did know sign language?
Okay, so they speak sign language, but they're kind of like
reserved.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's really rare. I mean, unless it's like in a business setting, but that's like a business setting, right? You get a few drinks in them, they'll be like, right? Like, it's only when it comes to like business settings or like in a courtroom.
Does it ever get too much for you? You meet a lot of people, you meet a lot of deaf people, their families, right? You talk with everyone, and they all kind of get close to you, and they start talking with you, they touch you,
the physical touching, it doesn't bother me. As long as it's not like in inappropriate areas, like, hey, and I'm fine with that, right? But like, you know, the tapping and like getting your attention.
Yeah, or like just looking in your face, you know, how they kind of look at me.
That doesn't bother me. It's kind of, I would say it's just a natural reaction or response. When I'm thinking, I tend to look away, which is probably makes me a little bit, if a deaf person was to examine me and watch me and decide if I was hearing or deaf, if they pick up on that, me kind of looking away and thinking, that might hint that I'm hearing for them. Okay. Yeah. So. But usually when I'm talking to them, they think I'm deaf. Okay. Does it get tiring? I guess what gets tiring is the eye contact. Yeah, that kind of gets tiring. Yeah, especially like now that I'm getting older and like. Yeah. Come on. I'm not like grandpa, but like I got other things on my mind, right? You know, I want to focus on like my other stuff, and I have to like book my time, because before when I was younger, I could do like 8 hours straight, just going somewhere and like go to Disney World or whatever, just chatting. But now I'm like, okay, it's not my eyes, it's my mind. Like it needs to just chill. Yeah, I think if I was in the same situation with just like talking to people, it'd be the same thing. Right. Like, so it's not that like sign language is more intense, it's just I have to use my eyes. And with the hearing world, I have to like use my voice. Right. So it's not. But anyway, I'm just tired of talking too much. Right. Which I wouldn't be able to tell right now. No, right now I'm fine for an interview, but when it's like a bunch of people, it gets like a little bit too crazy.